Jack Unterweger was born in Austria in 1950 and spent his youth in and out of jail for petty crimes. It wasn't until 1974 that Jack finally discovered his true passion, which was strangling prostitutes to death with their own bras. He was given a life sentence and imprisoned in Austria for what one would assume would be a lengthy stay. But while incarcerated, he discovered a new talent that involved way less hooker death. Jack began writing and turned out to be surprisingly good at it. His short stories, poems, and plays got the attention of Austria's intellectual elite. Austrian intellectuals began a campaign to release Unterweger, believing that someone of his literary skill couldn't possibly be capable of murdering anyone, insisting he must be cured of whatever mental defect he might have once had. The campaign was a success, and Unterweger was freed after serving only 15 years for violent, brutal murder. Thanks to the attention paid to him by his new literary friends, he immediately found work hosting television shows and discussing prison rehabilitation with the media. He also took to dressing in a style described as a cross between a cowhand and a Mississippi preacher, his new look as a dapper eccentric, helping to disarm and charm those he came across, and further convincing the people in his new social circle of his intelligence and artistic authenticity. Jack apparently still really liked killing hookers. He strangled 6 in the first year after his release, again with their own bras. Before this unfortunate fact was realized, Jack took a trip to Los Angeles to write a story on prostitution for an Austrian magazine. He went on a ride-along with the LAPD and afterward strangled 3 local prostitutes, presumably for additional research. Police began closing in on Unterweger while he was still in the United States, and he led the authorities on a nationwide chase. While on the run, he placed calls to his friends back home in the media and literary elite, imploring them to convince his pursuers of his innocence, before his friends could indignantly start another campaign to protest his unfair persecution at the hands of the lowbrow American justice system. The Austrian police nailed him on the 6 murders he had committed since he had been released from prison. Finally cornered in Miami, Florida, Unterweger was captured and extradited back to Austria, where he hanged himself in his jail cell with his trouser drawstring, presumably because he had writer's block. What Grady Stiles, a.k.a. the Lobster Boy, lacks in murderous volume, he makes up for in nightmarish creepiness. He had a congenital defect known as ectrodactyly, which literally means monstrous fingers, which was common in his family. He and his family found their niche in the quote, carnival freak community, and Grady's freakishness was spectacular, as not only were his hands fused into claws, but also his legs and feet were stunted into flippers. Grady grew up and married another carnival performer named Mary Teresa Herzog. He constantly physically and mentally abused his wife and the 4 children they produced, 2 of which were lobsters. His handicap left him unable to walk, but because he constantly used his arms to move, he developed massive upper body strength, allowing him to deliver vicious pinches, punches, headbutts, and chokeholds to any and all who displeased him. Grady was so proud of his claws that he bragged, "Everyone I have sex with wants to have sex with my claws." Which not only should I point out Grady had weird lobster sex, but he also had it with more than one person. When one of Grady's non-lobster daughters got engaged, Grady became jealous and ended the marriage before it began by shooting her fiancé to death with a shotgun on the eve of their wedding. Even though Grady openly admitted to the act and showed no remorse whatsoever, he was set free after being sentenced to only 15 years probation presumably because the prison system had no facilities to accommodate lobsters. His wife Mary left him and had another child, but for some reason grew weary of her new life and returned to Grady's open claws for a second marriage. Grady hadn't changed his ways though, and often threatened to kill Mary and her family. It seemed only a matter of time before he made good. So Mary and her son Glenn paid another carnival worker $1,500 to shoot Grady 4 times in the head while he drank and watched TV. Grady was so despised in his community that no one would step forward to serve as a pallbearer, and his simple gravestone was devoid of any epitaph. When I was 12, my dad once again got custody of me, so I went to live with him.